Hello, and welcome to part three of the mini lecture on culture, power, and communication. We will continue talking about the relationship between superstructure and base. So, if in the previous mini lecture we talk about how different relations of productions, different means of productions create a different system within the society, and how those system are being legitimized by the superstructure. Um, we are looking at, when we were giving the example, we were looking at the example in the United States, how through education, through family, through religion, politics, and mass media, um, the the system of the base, the capitalism system, the system that we are free to move from one social class to another social class, is being taught and established since we were little. So in our family, like what I said previously, we were taught to work hard, to study hard, and as a result, we will be able to succeed and gain financial success. And then through education, we're also being taught that when you graduate from college, you will be able to have more skills and therefore more possibility to be more successful, again, being linked to the idea of financial success. And even in the religion and the politics, as well as in the mass media, this narration about how to be successful is actually linked to this idea that with the values that we have, with the means of production that we have, this is a way for us to gain success. If this all sound too abstract, I do actually want to break down each of the component of these concepts that are being discussed as we discuss about the conditions of human existence. So here are the key concepts for us to understand this idea of power that we can also see within the context of culture. So there is this two concept I think you may be familiar with, or you may not. This concept is this idea of agency versus structure, or you can also interpret it as the idea of free will versus determination. So one of the most famous saying that was written by Marx is actually this idea of men make history, but not in conditions of their own choosing. And what it means is that the the way that we make our own story in the world, like it or not, it is linked with where we were born at that time, what year we were born, what skin color we were born into, what gender we were born into, what class we were born into, and that all of these conditions will help shape the way we continue to live our life within the society. So this idea of that human beings have free will to do whatever they want to do, in reality, and especially nowadays, we can see how it may not be completely truthful. The fact is, people who are born into a higher class that have the means to help them succeed will most likely be or have the positions that their parents had. So even in the United States, where we think that we are free to be whatever we want, we can um, have a goal to be the president of the United States, for instance. What we see is that most of the senators, most of the Congress members who have hold on to their position for years, that part of their family would end up also getting that position. Even, for instance, within the Bush family, we see that what the Bush senior used to be the president, and then the Bush junior became president as well. And then there are members of their family who also become, members of the Congress, or hold key positions within the government in their state in Texas. So this idea of free will that we believe in, and that we think that everybody is free to do whatever they want to do. I'm not I'm not saying that you cannot do it, but what I'm saying is that because of the structure that we are born into, our chance to succeed is going to be much less than people who are born into family of means, or people who have certain religion, or people who are of certain skin color, or people who are of certain gender, for instance. So we can discuss this more in our session, but I want to start introducing you to this idea so that you understand what is being said when we're talking about agency versus structure. And then there's idea of ideology versus hegemony. We know that ideology is a formalized system of ideas that legitimize social power. Yeah. So if we are asking, can you come up with an ideology, and how is it applied to our daily life? I am actually very much interested in listening to your example. I know that I have given you some example here, but I also want to hear some of the examples that you can come up on your own. And then this idea of hegemony, that the internalized form of these ideas when they have become common sense. So this is what we mean as ideology as lived experience. In a sense, hegemony becomes part of our culture because this is something that we live and we believe in wholeheartedly. So for instance, this idea of market liberalism leads to personal freedom. So, this ideology that markets are the best way to organize social relations because consumers are rational agents who make free choices and act in their own best interests. We know that there are many things that are at fault here, but we like to think that we as consumers are rational agents when we know for sure that we are actually not. However, take a look at the example of the hegemony. When I choose what drink to buy at Starbucks, I'm exercising my agency and I feel empowered, meaning that I have the freedom to choose what I want to drink from Starbucks. And therefore, I feel empowered and I feel like I am the one who makes the decisions. So, the fact that Starbucks is a product of corporation, and the fact that the options that are provided by Starbucks have been crafted and designed by them. So in a way, this idea of are we truly free to choose, or are we free to choose from the options that are there, and that those options are actually created by this big corporation. We like to have this idea of craft beer, craft drinks, craft coffee, craft pink drink, or craft dalgona drink, or whatever. And then I think we forget to actually dig deeper and understand how is these options and the choices that we have actually exist. Is it truly because we want it to exist, or is it because somebody else think that we want them to exist, and therefore they decide to create these products and market it to us. So going back to this idea of we are truly free, are we truly free when we're looking at how the ideology and hegemony works here? And also, there's this idea of false consciousness, this misrecognizing one's own best interests and acting against them. There are so many examples of this where we, for instance, this idea of universal healthcare. We believe that healthcare should be, for instance, if you believe the idea that healthcare should be rights that everybody should have, that everybody should have the rights to be healthy, regardless of whether they are working or not. Unfortunately, here in this country, most likely you will have health insurance when you are working, which requires you to be able to be healthy for you to work. Now, when you are sick and you're sick for a long period, then most likely you will get laid off, and therefore you will not have the kind of insurance that you have previously when you were still working. So we know that by looking at that system, that there is something wrong with this system, that if we believe that being healthy is a universal rights, that everybody has the rights to lead a healthy life, then how is it that this idea of private insurance becomes something that is acceptable within the system of free markets or capitalism here? So is it possible for us to actually rely on the government to provide us with the universal health care, so that regardless of whether we have a job or not, we will still be able to have our basic health? So this is also something that I want you to think about as we're thinking about this idea of false consciousness. If we're now back to our chapter, we understand that these are other concepts that are being discussed, talking about semiology or semiotic as the study of sign. It detects the underlying structure of a sign or signs. For example, all cultures have a fundamental structure of what characterizes as good or bad. If we go back to the picture of the United States flag, for instance, we know that that symbolizes the idea of all the good values that we believe in. So basically, when we're studying about this idea of semiology or semiotics, we're studying about the signs that we live and how we assign meanings to those signs in our life. There's also this concept of cultural capital that was coined by French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu. This is an interesting concept because we talk about the way families in certain social class use their cultural awareness and information to maintain their own socioeconomic status and to pass it to their children. We kind of have touched this concept a bit. So for example, parents who spend extra time with their children, to take them to play, to go to museum, to travel, introducing them to their colleagues, sending them to join certain social activities, to develop hobbies and network. Most likely those children will be more successful because of the social circle that the parents have built up to set them up for success. And Bourdieu argues that this cultural communication is more important than formal education because the skills that children have take a long time to develop have been cultivated and have been invested by their parents since they were much younger than their peers. So I have this 3 questions for the discussion board for this week, and what I want you to do is to choose one that interests you the most and try to answer it. And as usual, don't forget to respond to your classmates' answer as well. Thank you so much.